So, there's 16:09 left in the third period, and Pittsburgh is controlling the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal. Now, Montreal has shown some signs of life, but it is strange that they talk about how Montreal is not able to draw a penalty. And it's been games after games after games that this has been happening. Now, when you have Andrew Shaw in your lineup, something happens. It used to happen to Vancouver too. There are other teams that happens to in the NHL. There's an example where in the second, you probably could have called Pittsburgh for interference, except that Andrew Shaw had his legs wrapped around the guy's foot. So it's like, well, Shaw's probably trying to draw that penalty, and he's trying a little bit too hard. So if anything, it would have been offsetting penalties, and the referee just ignored it. And I think Montreal's got a reputation. I do. I think Montreal's got a reputation in the NHL. And I remember when Vancouver had that reputation. I've been through periods where Boston's got the reputation where referees won't call anything. Referees will make it very difficult for certain teams to get a power play based on reputations of players. And I think Andrew Shaw is there. And it's strange. I mean, I remember Andrew Shaw being a bit of a prick in the way he played in Chicago. And I remember him driving me nuts. But I always had respect for him. This is different in Montreal. And I'm not sure if he's changed his game that much. Maybe it's because this is the same team that normally has Gallagher in the lineup. And it just magnifies it. Maybe it's the fact that Montreal is a team that's very polarizing for me, even more so than Chicago. But Shaw seems to be detracting from Montreal's ability to actually get power plays. And I don't know that the rest of the lineup helps. I think the way that Emelin plays always on the edge, I think that causes them problems. Because then when somebody turns around and cross-checks Emelin, nobody says anything. Because he probably started it. And so there's kind of a cascade that happens for Montreal here. And the other cascade that's going on for Montreal is here we are with Carey Price, and Pittsburgh's getting a power play on a Pacioretty play. And Pacioretty's beaking off at Malkin. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Right there, while I'm talking, Montreal gets penalty. And it's Pacioretty against Malkin. And he just butt ends him. And it's an iffy penalty. But again, Montreal doesn't get the benefit of those calls because the referees don't like Montreal. And the fact that when Pacioretty gets that penalty, instead of just going, all right, I'm going to go to the box, he beaks off. Referees don't like to be showed up. And it doesn't really matter if it's a good call or a bad call. That's not what I'm talking about here. That's the bad part. If you're a Montreal fan, the bad news is it doesn't matter if these calls are bullshit. The players have to keep their mouth shut. You can't beak off at a referee when they're going to call it like this. So now Pittsburgh gets power play. There's 13:58 left. And Carey Price is not Carey Price. They pointed out between the second and third here in highlights that Price is getting beat over the blocker. And you can't. That's a spot you can't be letting goals in. You just can't. Basically, as an NHL goaltender, there's certain spots of the net that you should always have covered. Wraparounds are bad. So the goal that Andrew Ghetto got tonight was not good. Murray would want that back. Andrew Ghetto basically just wraps it around and banks it in off the goaltender's own stick into his net. That should never happen. And 5-hole, with the way that the pads are now, should never happen. Those shots should never get through. And for the most part, unless it's high, like and those high shots that are just in under the net, that either just hit the top of the net and bounce right back down, or the ones that go right in and cling right off that back post, right at the top. Those are fantastic shots. Very few goalies can stop those. But the ones that are just over that blocker, goalies should be able to stop that. And it does make me wonder if there's something lingering with Carey Price. Is there something bothering him that he's not talking about? Because, they showed some replays of goals he's allowed. He's allowed 3 goals or more in 8 of his last 10 starts. That's not Carey Price. Something is up. And I think after missing so much of last season due to injury, even if he was injured right now, maybe he's not talking about it. Maybe there's something nagging. Maybe there's some kind of ache or pain that he's going, it'll go away. It'll go away. I can deal with this. It'll go away. I got to wonder about that. Okay, so Pittsburgh takes a penalty now. So Montreal is going to have a power play after 15 seconds of 4-on-4. Trevor Daley with high sticking. Daley, a defenseman I was not a huge fan of in Dallas. I wasn't that upset to see Trevor Daley go. I was more upset about Brendan Dillon being gone. More upset about Jyrki Jokipakka, because I think Jokipakka has more potential. I just don't. I'm not a huge fan of Trevor Daley. So now Montreal has a power play, but Pittsburgh has the puck. And Pittsburgh has really been in control of this game so far. It's obviously not over. I mean, you still got over half of a period. If Montreal can score in this power play, make it a 1-goal game, then you got some fun. Pittsburgh is a team that allowed 7 goals in their last game. So, it can turn around. And tonight, you look at Boston and Detroit, and Boston really doesn't want to win. They were up 4-1 after one period. Then it was 4-4. Now it's 5-4 for Boston. Boston really doesn't want that win. They really don't. But for Montreal, yeah, they can't get in over the line. But again, they've only had, I think they said 5 power plays in their last 4 games. They don't get power plays. So when you get a power play, you're kind of lost because you haven't had one in a long time. It's sort of like for goaltenders. The only thing worse than facing 60, 70 shots in a game is facing 10. Goaltenders get rusty if they don't get enough shots. They get cold. And I think your power play can get cold too, just from not getting the opportunities. Because here we are with 17 seconds left in the power play, and they're just starting to set up now. So it took them a minute and a half to set up the power play to get a shot. Decent shot, but you can't take a minute and a half to set up your power play because you're just not giving it enough of a chance. And now Pittsburgh's killed that off. There's 10 minutes left. And there you go. But yeah, it's an interesting thing I've noticed in this game that Montreal just can't get a call. They just can't. Yeah, you just can't get a call. It'll be interesting to see how things shake down from here, but I think tonight's a good example of how the Atlantic matches up against the Metro. Could be ugly in the playoffs. I mean, there's the potential that a Metro 5th place team or a 4th place team could do the crossover, play Montreal in the first round, knock them out, and then knock out the team that comes out of the 2-3 matchup in the Atlantic and go to the semifinals, the conference championships. It'd probably be a fantastic series. I mean, right now you got Washington, Pittsburgh, and Columbus, and then the Rangers is number 4. Now just imagine if the Rangers went on a run and in the conference final played Washington or Pittsburgh. Everybody's watching that. Because I don't see Montreal as having the horses. You look at this matchup tonight. Montreal's the number 1 team in the Atlantic. They don't have the horses. They don't have the star power. They don't have the... Unless Carey Price is a world beater, they don't match up well against any of the Metro teams at forward or on the blue line. They just don't. And Shea Weber's one of the best in the league. He's fantastic. But, Pittsburgh, you've got Letang, who right there, at the very least, whether you like or dislike Shea Weber or Letang, at the very least, it's a saw-off. You could argue that it's one guy or the other that's better, but just make that a saw-off and then go down the rest of the blue line. Pittsburgh wins out. You look at the 4 lines that they can roll, Pittsburgh wins out. And Pittsburgh isn't the best team in the Metro. That would be Washington. They're not the second best. That would be Columbus. And I just, I find the Atlantic Division to be sort of lacking. It doesn't mean that Carey Price can't go on a run, because he can. But it's going to be tough. It is going to be very, very tough. It is going to be a long off season if Montreal finishes first and loses in the first round to a Metro team. Could happen. I'm not saying it will. I don't want a bunch of hate from Montreal fans here. Just, it could happen. While they are easily the best team in the Atlantic, and I will give Montreal that. Just with Carey Price, Shea Weber, Max Pacioretty, Brendan Gallagher when healthy, just the pieces they can roll out there are pretty damn good, and they're the best team in the Atlantic. But I just don't know which team from the Metro they match up with. And I can't see a wild card spot going to the 4th place team in the Atlantic Division. I just can't see it. Like, let's say Toronto and Ottawa get those 2nd and 3rd spots because Boston just sucks. And tonight's another example. They just can't get consistent. I finally believed in them on the weekend with that win over Philly, and then they bit me in the ass again. And I'm starting to get gun shy with them again. But I can't see Boston beating out any of the Atlantic teams in points. I could see Tampa coming in. I mean, I could also see Tampa knocking out Montreal in the first round. I could see Tampa getting in there and causing major damage. Because it's the Lightning that are due to go on a run. They're due. And we're just waiting on it. Everybody's waiting on it. I'm sure Tampa fans are getting a little bit impatient waiting for it. But they're waiting for it. Sort of like Montreal fans right now are waiting for their offense to kick into gear again. And offside to Pittsburgh with 9:11 left in the 3rd period. Malkin not happy that was an offside, but, Malkin's a very spirited individual. Anyways, I just figured I would talk a little bit about what I see with Montreal. So I haven't talked about Montreal very much lately, other than the Carey Price struggles. But there's a lot more going on in Montreal's game right now, and this is a microcosm of that. They don't get power plays. Which, as they stated too in commentary tonight, shows that they're not getting the puck possession that they need, because if you don't have the puck, you're not going to draw a penalty. You draw the penalty by carrying the puck and making the team penalize themselves to get that puck back. By frustrating the other team. They're just not doing it right now. So Montreal's got some issues going on. Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you're a Montreal fan, let me know where you think what they need to work on. Is this a Michel Therrien issue? I know there's been a lot of talk about him for quite a while by certain Montreal fans that he needs to go. Is this another example of that? Or is there something else? Who do you trade out? Who do you trade in? And let me know in the comments what you think. And if you're just browsing through, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And thank you very much for watching.